This is a video on how to cure your people pleasing. Now, if you like it when other people take advantage of your kindness and then you get bitter and resentful, then this video is not for you. But if you're trying to get rid of your people pleasing and this has been a lifelong struggle for you, then just stick around for a couple of minutes because I'm gonna give you some advice that's gonna change your fucking life. Hi, my name is Edgar, and I've spent the first 25 years of my life developing psychological problems. And I've spent the remaining years just trying to solve them using my two obsessions, psychology and philosophy. Therapy never worked for me because I often found that therapists were giving me advice to problems they never even had. If I was running in the Paralympics, I'm not gonna take advice from some motherfucker with two working legs because they won't understand the intricacies of my problem. Instead, I read every book I could get my hands on from people who deeply understood my people-pleasing problem perfectly. Puto. Sorry, I was running out of peas. Anyways, I went from being the guy who was constantly afraid of conflict, always would be argued into submission, so I'd volunteer for things I wouldn't even want to do, and don't even try to get me to express a boundary. Cause that shit would trigger an adrenaline rush. I'm not proud of that actually, it's actually true. Anyways, I went from being that guy to the one who's known amongst his friends as the first one to bring up problems.
Yeah, I think you overcorrected.
Fuck you, I'm not going back. In this video, I'm gonna tell you the number one mistake that people pleasers make that keep them in that cycle so you can break it yourself. After that, I'm gonna tell you how people pleasing even ruins friendships using a raw and honest personal story of mine that I'm not excited to share, if I'm being honest. Finally, I'll leave you with a detailed action plan that I use to cure my people pleasing that you can use today. But before we get into any of that, you have to know where people pleasers come from. In personality psychology, they have the Big 5 personality model, which is kind of like astrology, except it's actually backed by science. If you're an astrologist and you got offended by that, it's not my fault you believe in bullshit. But let's come back to the Big 5 personality model. I know some of you guys are probably familiar with it, but I'm gonna explain it for those who aren't. All human beings land somewhere in the 5 dimensions. And our starting point is decided at birth, and that's called our temperament. And it is innate, not socially constructed. And we all know that to some degree because we know we can't choose our desires. We discover our desires by interacting with the world. As an extrovert, I discovered I love socializing. And I also discovered that introverts hate that. That tripped me out. I didn't get that. But the reason I bring this up is because people pleasers discover that they don't like conflict. Let me tell you about the dimension agreeableness.
There's another dimension called agreeableness. And agreeable people are self-sacrificing, compassionate, and polite. If you're dealing with an agreeable person, they don't like conflict. They care for other people. They're likely to put your concerns ahead of theirs. They're non-competitive and cooperative.
Yeah, that was me. I'm not proud of it, if I'm being honest. In fact, often whenever I was being a people pleaser, the situation went a little something like this.
Hey Edgar, how's it going, man?
Hey, what's up, Alan? How's it going?
Good, good. I have this thing for my church on Friday. I was hoping you could help me out.
Say no. You wanna say no. You wanna say no.
Yeah. On Friday I can... Oh, I just realized I got my brother's birthday on Friday. I'm sorry, man.
Okay, but your brother's birthday is this Friday. I'm talking about next Friday.
Oh.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah. I'll be available.
Yeah, cool, man. Oh, thank you, bro. I really appreciate it.
For sure, man. For sure.
Thank you.
And then after moments like that, I would commit the number one mistake that people pleasers make that keep them a people pleaser. And that mistake is that I would justify my actions because I thought I was being a moral person. Like, oh God, Edgar, you didn't really want to do it, but you can't help it. You're too moral for your own good. And then it hit me. hold on a second, Edgar. A good human being would have wanted to help. Let's be real, Edgar. You didn't say yes because you wanted to help. You said yes because you were incapable of saying no. And that's not good. That's weak. And when I first heard those words, I was like, ah! You hit me in the soul. You didn't have to go there. Because it fucking hurt. Because it was true. I really didn't want to help him. I didn't give a fuck what was going on. But I rationalized like, oh God, Edgar, you're just good. But I knew I didn't want to help. It was so fucking pathetic. Here's why it was pathetic. And I'm not proud of admitting this next part. I would get bitter. And then I would retaliate in secret by either making a joke at their expense with a group of people, or I would just do a really poor job in hopes that they would say, man, this guy sucks, let's not invite him anymore. I would do everything except tell them I didn't want to do it. I was a coward. Don't you see? People pleasers are cowards. Oh, what a realization. But get this, it still wasn't enough. It only planted a seed. I still wanted to believe I was being a good person. And so I didn't do anything to change it. Instead, I waited for an entire friendship to be ruined before I realized this needs to change. I gotta stop being such a pathetic little coward, and I gotta do what it takes to change what's going on in here. Let me tell you a story. I used to be a delivery driver for Maria's Italian Kitchen. And it was great because most of our clients were like wealthy white women, which meant I got a lot of tips. And in this particular day that I'm telling you the story about, I already had a huge tip on my very first delivery. It was 8 pizzas and there was already a $40 tip included. And I was like, man, I'm showing up to $40, feels pretty good. And then when I looked up the address, it was across the street. I was like, man, what a good day. The manager shows up and me and her are pretty good friends because she's also a wealthy white woman. I think that's why. We got along pretty well. And that's important to the story because of what's gonna happen next. She comes up to me and says, hey, Edgar, your delivery has $40 and it's just across the street. You barely showed up. I think it would be fair to split it with the cook who spent 30 minutes making the food. Now, this isn't where the people pleasing happens. In fact, I thought that was reasonable. I'm like, yeah, man, split it. That's still 20 bucks for 5 minutes of work only going across the street. She says, perfect, and then proceeds to go tell my coworker. And this is when things go to shit. You gotta understand, me and my coworker, we've been good friends and we make jokes back and forth for a while. And this is the person whose friendship I ruined. The manager goes up to him and she says, hey, I just spoke with Edgar. He agreed that it would be good for you and him to split the tip 50-50. How does that sound? And then he makes his joke like,
oh, 50-50. I should get all 40. I made the pizzas.
It wasn't a very good joke, not gonna lie. But that comment ended up getting him hella roasted. Because my manager got pissed. She's like,
that's not nice. I was trying to do you a favor.
And she's saying this in front of the whole restaurant. He's getting reprimanded like a child and he's standing like a child, shaking, kind of trying to laugh it off, red face. Honestly, I thought it was overkill. But then the manager comes right back to me and she goes, anyways, Edgar, how are you doing? And I'm like, I'm doing good, thanks for asking. Yeah, I wasn't about to confront her like, hey man, you went too far. Because I was still a people pleaser at the time. I was just like, all right, I'm just trying not to be in trouble with any of you. We cool? All right, cool. Me and her start talking back and forth. And the cook is pissed because he's seeing this dynamic. The cook's been at the restaurant way longer than I have, and I'm in better relationships with the manager than he is. So it almost felt like he was here, then he got reprimanded, and now I am above him. And some of the ways that people climb this little hierarchy is they either do better themselves or they just drag somebody else down. And that's what he decided to do. To me, dude just comes up to me and says,
Hey, Edgar, how many pizzas are we taking?
and I go, I don't know, let me check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 pizzas we're taking. And then he says,
Oh, you didn't know already? You had to look? Not a good look for you, Edgar.
and I was like, what the fuck was that about? Well, did he just take a jab at me? Was he trying to make me look bad? Or is this a typical joke that we do? I don't know. It felt really weird. I felt like I was getting personally attacked, but I didn't want to bring it up because, I don't know, that was a conflict I was trying to avoid, right? I mean, you know what's going on. But since I said nothing, there was nothing in the universe to communicate to my coworker that he shouldn't do what he just did. And so, of course, he's gonna do it again. And I feel it again more. Now it's realer, because now it's not one, it's two events. But I didn't say anything the first time, so now it's even harder to say something the second time. I'm sure you know what that's like too. And you might even relate to this next part that I'm totally, really embarrassed, ashamed about. When he's meaner to me, I don't want to say this, I start being nicer to him. Like I'm trying to win him over, like, oh look, I'm just gonna do this favor for you and I'll clean this area up for you and all of this nice stuff so you can start treating me nicely, because people pleasers have an issue. And it's almost as if they have this rule embedded into their soul that says, if I can figure out what others want without them telling me, then they could figure out what I want without me telling them. It's fucking manipulative. It is, I'm not gonna lie. I was very manipulative, and so that's what people pleasers tend to be. We have to be manipulative because we don't like direct confrontation, so we go around things. And I'm not proud of admitting this, but I hope you can see I'm putting it all out there for you guys. I'm being honest, and I don't like this. Okay. Anyways, he makes his second attack at me. I say nothing. He makes a third attack. I start to feel bitter and resentful, and I start to have fantasies, and that's when you know the people-pleasing has gone wrong. When you start to fantasize of, oh, I should have said this, oh, I should have said that. The shift ends up ending, and I'm still angry about it on my drive to the gym. At this point in my life, I'm huge on self-improvement, and I would read books on my way to the gym, and at the gym read more books and just absorb it all. But I couldn't focus on that anymore, because I was having all these shower arguments inside my head. Oh, I should have said this, and I would have told him to his face, and I would have made this joke. It would have fucking put him on blast. It would have been great. I can't focus because my weakness is now producing this negative psychic energy inside my head. On the other hand, I have this other bright side going on inside my head where I go, well, I only work with my coworker once a week, so I won't see him for another 6 days, and I just forget about the problem. I don't want to address it. Again, I'm scared, but I don't want to say that to myself. All I keep saying is it's because I'm a nice guy and I understood that he got insulted and I didn't want to be an extra insulter. That would be bad for him. But it's like, what about you, Edgar? Who cares, says the people pleasers. We are willing to sacrifice our own happiness for the happiness of the group, which is why it's dangerous, because inevitably I'm gonna explode. You'll see in this story. So anyways, I come back the next Friday and he's still there and my manager isn't. And since my manager's not there, I get a little bit of anxiety. Like, man, I was hoping my manager was there, so in case something bad happens, she could call it out, so I don't have to. Oh, God, what a fucking coward. She wasn't there, and my coworker starts laying it on me again. More jokes at my expense. It's a fourth joke, and I just take it. But I feel the emotion. A fifth joke, again. A sixth joke, again. Seventh joke, I'm pissed. I'm more angry at myself because at this point I just feel trapped in my head because it's like, well, I didn't say anything the first time, so it's just awkward if I say it now at the 9th time. Same cycle happens again. I drive home, I'm pissed, having shower arguments. I should have said this, except this time the 6-day break didn't help me. I was ruminating about this experience all week. And when Friday came up, I was already a pot ready to boil. I'm about to spill over. This guy better not say something. Into the third shift. 10 minutes goes into the shift and an opportunity presents itself. I'm talking to a client and she says, okay, that's the order, thank you. And I go, okay, you got it, and I send it out. And then she goes, wait. Sorry, I forgot to tell you. Can you make this order for 7:30 p.m.? I had already sent it to the kitchen. I go, sure, no problem. I'll just tell them I'm sure it'll blow over. Bye. Click. Hey, kitchen. The client said that she wants it for 7:30. And that prompted my friend to begin his onslaught. Why didn't you just put it on the ticket, Edgar? You always mess up. What's going on with you? And I fucking lost it. I scream at the top of my lungs, shut the fuck up and get to work. Why are you always fucking talking shit? Mind you, I'm saying this in Spanish because this guy's barely speaks any English. So I'm screaming at him in Spanish, and most of the restaurant has never heard me speak Spanish. So they're like, yo, this is a side of Edgar I haven't seen. And everyone's watching because I'm making a scene. And my coworker went back to being a reprimanded child. He starts to have his shoulders, this and that. He starts to smile it off. But I'm still pissed, laying it on him. Fuck you, don't fucking smile. You know what the fuck you've been doing. I don't know why you've been picking on me. I just lay it all out. Everything just vomited on him. And he doesn't bother me for the rest of the day. He doesn't bother me for the rest of the time I work there. I drive home and my conscience is clear. There's no more fantasizing about shower arguments. There's no pressure to conflict anymore because I handled it. I'm going home. Woo, man, this book is great. I'm actually paying attention. I'm at the gym. I'm like, man, why do I feel so good? It turns out when you overcome a struggle, you feel better about yourself. Who knew that? People pleasers, every time you confront someone, you're gonna feel better about yourself for a bit. Then you're gonna remember what you did. And you're gonna be like, oh God, did I go too far? And here's a problem that many people pleasers have. Right after they confront somebody, they start to feel guilty, like, man, maybe I could have said it nicer. So I have a question for you. Should you feel bad during these scenarios? Yes. Let's pay attention to my scenario. I noticed there was a problem from the beginning, but I never said anything because I didn't want conflict. So my other friend had no idea that I wanted him to adjust his behavior. Instead, the emotion built, and had I said something in the beginning, I would have had 1 or 2 or 3 things to be angry at him about. But now I have like 10 things to be angry about. And that only happened because, again, I was unwilling to address the problem that I myself noticed from the beginning. And then I'm also assuming maliciousness. I don't know if he knew what he was doing wrong, or if maybe he just thought he was just joking and ramped it up, or maybe it was malicious, who knows. But regardless, I never gave him the benefit of the doubt. I just assumed he was trying to hurt me, and I exploded on him, and I never talked to him again. Every time I saw him, I often felt bad, like, damn. And I had to realize I fucked up, because I've never done this. I don't know how to do this. And you're gonna have to deal with this too. Because you've never used your anger, at some point you're going to overshoot. Those moments do suck, but they're necessary for us because they teach us how much anger we should be using. It's part of the process of getting rid of your people pleasing. And I know that doesn't sound fun, but I promise I got some advice that's gonna make that easier. But in order for this advice to work, we have to go step by step by step. As human beings, we have issues admitting that we have problems. And the first step to getting rid of our people pleasing is to acknowledge that our people pleasing isn't a good thing. It's a bad thing. It does us harm and it does others harm. At this point in the video, you already know that people pleasers have a tendency to see it as a good thing. Here's someone doing it all the way into their 50s and then getting called out for it.
Okay, so give me 2 or 3 of your best qualities.
I'm empathetic. I feel people's emotions, you know, and I feel like I try to listen and understand where they're coming from. I'm a caregiver. I am a physician. And so I know from your, past career, I think you know me even though you don't know me, you know. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, man. We're friends, right?
Yes. I'm ready.
What if I told you that maybe you're not empathetic, but that empathy is a tool? It is the syringe to get you the drug you need. And the drug you need is other people's approval. Other people to say you're
totally
good.
See that.
And so you're not empathy or compassionate in the traditional sense, or the way we would look it up in Webster's dictionary. Compassion and empathy are tools you have weaponized to get what you want, which is everyone in your world to be okay.
Yeah, I can see that.
And when they're not okay, you get pissed off at them for not letting you have my drug, right?
Yeah, or I feel like I did something wrong. You know, I didn't do something right, or I didn't do a good enough job.
It's important to admit that we have a problem because that makes it real to the brain. And then it starts working on it subconsciously and often consciously. Having said that, it's not easy. When I first had to admit it to myself, it was a hard pill to swallow because I didn't want to admit I had any weaknesses. But once I was willing to accept it, I felt this catharsis and then this sudden energy and motivation to change because now there is something to fix. Carl Rogers, one of the most influential psychologists of all time, said it best. The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change.
But agreeable people, especially if they're really agreeable, are so agreeable that they often don't even know what they want because they're so accustomed to living for other people and to finding out what other people want and to trying to make them comfortable and so forth that it's harder for them to find a sense of their own desires as they move through life.
This one's actually a lot harder than it looks. Know what I want? Have a vision for the future? But I'm too busy trying to go along with the group and not cause any trouble. But it's important to know what you want because how can you stand up for yourself if you don't have anything to stand up for? You can only put your opinions forward if you have opinions to put forward.
Hey guys, so it's decided. Movies?
I want to do something else.
And what's that something else?
I don't even know.
You see, it doesn't work. So for this one, I actually had to go deep into my psyche and figure out what is it that I would want? If I could have everything the way I wanted, what would that look like? And then once we're aware of what we're standing up for, all that's left is for us to do the final and hardest step of this entire process.
Say what you think. Tell the truth about what you think. There's going to be things you think that you think are nasty and harsh. And they probably are nasty and harsh, but they're also probably true. And you need to bring those up to the forefront and deliver the message. And it's not straightforward at all because agreeable people do not like conflict. Not at all. They smooth the water.
That's so true. That's why this was the hardest step for me to do. I couldn't be honest with my friends because I knew I was going to end up hurting their feelings. But think about the reputation that a people pleaser will have. If they have trouble being honest with their friends, then they have a reputation for being dishonest. When I first started trying to tell the truth, it began by telling people who I was. And I would go up to some friends and I'd be like, look, dude, I'm sorry. I'm a people pleaser and I have trouble being honest with people. And they were like, yeah, look, dude, we know. That's why I never asked for your opinion, because I can't trust you. And I was like, ow, fucker. But then I realized he was telling the truth. And that was necessary for me to hear, because it taught me that I wasn't hiding my people pleasing as well as I thought I was. And now I'm trying to send this message to you. People can tell you're a people pleaser. Every time I'm in a group, I know who the people pleasers are. And I don't trust them fully, for the same reason that people shouldn't have trusted me. When I hung out with a people pleaser friend, I didn't know if they actually wanted to hang out with me or if they were just too afraid to tell me no because they thought they were the bad guy. But it gets even worse than that, because just like you can get spotted by someone who can recognize a people pleaser, some of those people who spot you are going to actively try to exploit you.
If you want to hire someone to exploit productively, you hire middle-aged women who are hyper-conscientious and who are agreeable, because they'll do everything. They won't take credit for it and they won't complain. And that's nasty, and I think that happens all the time. And so one of the things you have to be careful of if you're agreeable is not to be exploited, because you'll line up to be exploited.
And the worst part about this is that it's not obvious who those people are in your life. Some of them are those you call your friends. Once I started telling the truth, it became obvious who those people were. Sometimes I would tell a friend, hey man, I don't want to do it. And they would say, no, I get it, dude. You got your life. Don't worry about it. And then other times I would tell a friend and they'd be like,
Man, Edgar, really? You said you would.
and I realized that different people had different intentions for me. Sometimes some people really were just using me. And that's what this process is for. You're gonna need to find out who are really your friends and who only use you. And I'm not gonna lie to you, those moments are extremely uncomfortable. It was really uncomfortable for me when I found out, damn, some people who I thought were my closest friends were only my friends when I was doing them all these favors. And then once I started standing up for myself, they stopped inviting me to places. They stopped wanting me around. But again, it was necessary to filter out the right people in my life, and I'm so much happier for it now. But I get it. It's scary. I know the fear, but I want to give you an idea that helps me make a decision in these difficult times. All right, I'm bringing out the whiteboard. Okay, so here's the lesson. In order to get from a bad place to a better place, you have to go through a worse place. And here's what that could look like. You could hate your job and you want a better job, but you have to go through the quitting process, through looking for a new job, going through the interviews, and then finally you end up there. Or you're in a bad relationship where you don't respect yourself, and so you get lonely and you're single and you go back into the dating market until eventually you're in a better place. And some people are too afraid of this worst place that they just stay their whole life in the bad place. And so these are the people who can't quit their heroin because they can't deal with the withdrawals. And so they never get here. They stay here and they die. And people pleasers, you are in a bad place and you want to get to a better place. But the only way you get through that is by going through the worst place. You tell the truth. You find out who your friends are. You hurt other people. And you're gonna experience some conflict. God, would this be easier if we were fucking disagreeable, right?
What are disagreeable people like? They're tough-minded, they're blunt, they're competitive, and they won't do a damn thing they don't want to do.
But those people are like magic or whatever, but it's not like agreeable people don't have their own benefits. Due to the fact that agreeable people care about other people's feelings and perspectives, they became good at detecting how other people are actually feeling. However, they're sacrificing their own happiness to do it. And if they learn how to incorporate their tough side, they can have the benefits of being the agreeable person and the disagreeable person, and it just feels like magic, people. The amount of calm and peace that I have now that I've gone from that bad place through that worst place and come out the other side, it's so much better that I never want to go back. I don't know how to communicate this to you any better. But I bet when I bring up the fact that you have to go through a worse place, you get a little scared, and people pleasers are pretty known for running away from their problems. And I want to ask you something. When has running away ever worked? Take it from my story. When I ran away, the problem just got bigger. It never went away. It was just delayed. And that's what's going to keep happening. So what advice do I offer for people who are afraid of confronting people? You should be afraid of it. It's scary as fuck. It was scary as fuck for me. But you should be more afraid of staying a people pleaser because you know you hate it. And it's only gonna get worse. The pain of changing and telling the truth, that was intense and short. But the pain of staying a people pleaser, that's chronic and soul crushing for the rest of your life. And remember, the only way you can get something you've never had is by doing something you've never done. Also subscribe, bitches. You came this fucking far. At this point, just subscribe. I'm gonna make more videos like this. My next one's probably gonna be on depression, because your boy had that too.